Hey guys, welcome to the Q&A video. I appreciate all the comments and questions over the last few videos, and I thought this would be a good opportunity to get to know me a little bit more and have some viewer and subscriber interaction. So let's get into a few things about me, and then we'll get into some of the questions. I was born in the Tri-Towns in New Liskeard and grew up mostly in Hellebury. Moved to North Bay when I was in my early to mid 20s, and met my wife and settled down from there. Been working in the mining industry pretty much my whole career. Started off at Boart Longyear in Hellebury, and then went to Redpath and cementation, Taurus drilling, and Taurus was bought by Major Drilling, and now I'm working for another mining contractor up in the Kirkland Lake area. So to start off, I moved to this house with my wife about 10 years ago. We bought a dog right off the hop. In fact, we weren't even moved in, and I went and got her, and had a couple kids. My son will be 6 this year, and my daughter Satan, she'll be 4 this August. So got a little family. Set up a garden right off the hop as well. Kind of gave that up this year, but that will come back. Got a robin bouncing around behind me. Got some chickens about 4 years ago. Had those ones for maybe 3.5 years, and they weren't really producing very well. So I butchered them up last fall during one of my time offs. A few things I like to do when I'm not working. I like to fish, especially brook trout. I like to hunt, mainly deer, but this last fall I really got into duck and goose hunting. To be honest, that's probably my favorite type of hunting now. A lot of action, a lot of shooting, and it's kind of an interaction thing between your decoy spread and calling and the flock. Hopefully you can entice them to come in enough and be able to get a shot. So that's a lot of fun. I definitely plan on doing that this fall. I enjoy a little bit of homesteading. I'm hoping to get into it a little bit more over the next couple years. That's the whole purpose for getting the land over there cleaned up and clear cut. That should allow me about an acre of field. Obviously not enough to hay or anything like that, but it would allow us to put some chickens or maybe some pigs or some goats up. If it gets cleared this fall, I'm definitely in the spring going to get some meat chickens, probably 30 to 50 depending on if I can sell a bunch ahead of time. I don't want to have 50 chickens in my freezer. I don't have the space or anything to store to have that many frozen, so we'll see how that goes. I would also like to get some more egg laying chickens. I'd like at least a dozen, maybe 2 dozen, and be able to sell enough eggs to kind of pay for themselves. That's one thing that's nice about chickens and eggs. So let's get into some of the questions. One of the questions was, what is the best advice I've been given? And the best advice I've been given was from Garden Fork. I believe his name's Eric, and I really apologize if I got the name wrong. I'm horrible with names. But we must have done some interacting, and he wrote me a nice long message, and there was a whole bunch of points on that I could use to improve my channel. But the biggest one was for mundane tasks and simple tasks that I do day to day. He's like, people aren't able to do that themselves. He's like, not everybody lives in the country. Not everybody's able to cut lawn. Not everybody's able to have a garden. Not everybody's able to cut trees. Not everybody's able to have bees, and so on and so on. And he said, so when you're out doing your day-to-day stuff, bring a camera and record it. And he's like, people will watch it because people aren't able to experience that themselves. And that's still hard for me to do when I'm going to do a simple task. I don't even want to make that video, if that makes sense. But he's right, I think. And if you look at a lot of the videos that do well on the how-tos, the homesteading, most of it's simple and right down to the nitty-gritty, dirty, boring stuff. But that's what people are looking for, because when they're looking for something, they have no idea. So they start right at the basics and work their way up. So another good question was, how did I get into trapping? I got into trapping out of necessity. I have 45 acres here, and there's a big pond that splits my property up, and the neighbors have a portion of the pond as well on both sides of me. And my neighbor to my left, or I guess to the west of me, gave me access to go around their property to get to the back of my property. And the one day I was out there, and my four-wheeler was basically driving in water, about 3 or 4 inches of water. And I quickly, looked around, and I could see that there was all kinds of beaver activity. And they had 3 or 4 dams, one really long dam, and they just kept blocking the water and blocking the water. And we had a few years where we got a lot of snow, a lot of rain. So they really increased the water volume in that area. And I got in contact with a couple trappers. They were really hit and miss. They were sporadic. They wouldn't come. They wouldn't get back to me. And I didn't want just any Tom, Dick, and Harry running around on my property. So I grabbed my gun and I went out back and I started shooting them. And I was really on the fence about shooting them, and because I didn't like the fact that they were just going to die out in the water and they weren't going to be used for anything. And then one day I was going to take a shot with my .223. I was looking through the scope, and I lifted my head up and I looked, and if I followed the trajectory of my bullet, if there was a ricochet off the water, there was a good chance it was going to go into someone's house. And that set off flags, and basically that was a no-go. That's not something I tolerate, and I'm glad I didn't squeeze the trigger off. So I went to the fur harvesters here in town, and I bought, I think, half a dozen 330 Belials, and I set out to trap. And I had no idea how to trap, so I started watching YouTube videos. Kirk McCutcheon, Trapper Joe, Dave Vandermeer, Norm, Time on the Line. He's got a different title now. Andrew Stanley, The Wild North, Jason Roberts, and there's a whole shit ton of other good YouTubers that are trapping. I really focused on cold weather, Northern Ontario, Canadian, just because it's easier to associate when you have no idea what you're doing. A lot of good trappers out there, the Meat Trapper, the Boss of the Swamp. So another question I got was, how did I get into food plots, and where did I learn about food plots? The number one source for me is Dr. Grant Woods. He's got a YouTube channel, Growing Deer TV. He's probably on most of the outdoor networks. I know I've seen him on Wild TV up here in Canada. This guy really knows deer. He knows growing food plots. He knows agriculture. He knows all that stuff. And I really pay attention to what he says, and then I relate it to what I can do here. Now, I don't have tractors. I don't have access to, thousands of pounds of lime. I don't have access to rotor tillers and all that sort of stuff. I'm stuck with my side-by-side, my spring drag, and a whole lot of dirty work with my hands. So I research seeds, I research what grows well in my area, I talk to farmers, I do all that sort of stuff, and I try and do my best job at remembering exactly what I've planted, when I planted it, and what the year was like. I even have a journal, bit of a journal. I shouldn't say it's not a great journal, but I write down what I planted, how much of it, and that sort of thing, and which food plot I planted it in. I also keep most of my trail camera pictures so that I can see the progress through the years of my food plots, and that really helps. So I thought I'd give a little bit of a shout out to some channels that I watch and that have helped me grow my channel, some good people along the way. Cecil Skinner, he's got a homesteading channel. I actually worked with him for maybe 6 months to a year up in New Liskeard area. Very good guy, very intelligent, and knows his way around old equipment. He stopped by one day when I was whippersnipping, scared the crap out of me. It was really unexpected, and that was pretty cool. So I'm in one of his videos. Another one is the Wooded Beardsman, Mr. Chris. He's pretty cool. He's from this area, which is really neat considering I'm not from here. So I learned some of his secret fishing holes. They're supposed to take me into Puddle Lake there one of these days, eh, Jeremy? And speaking of Jeremy, he's the one wild crafter. He is really well. He does really well with wild edibles, calories. He's going to be doing a big wild edible thing starting in January, where he's going to focus basically everything he eats on wild edibles. So he's gathering stuff now. He's going to be fishing, big game hunting, collecting wild edibles, foods like veggies and mushrooms and all that sort of stuff, and stockpiling it, and doing a whole thing throughout the year. So I think that'll be pretty cool. Check out his channel for sure. Todd, Backwoods Living, I believe is the name of the channel. I'll put all these channels in down below. He's someone that's always watched my videos and always left comments, and I like watching his videos, especially when he's playing hockey. I think that's pretty fun to watch his redneck hockey down below, down south. So check out his channel as well. And like I mentioned before about all the trapping channels, I watch a ton of trapping channels. I watch a lot of homesteading channels. Justin Rhodes is another really great one for homesteading. Weed'em and Reap, I really like their videos. They're in Arizona. Lumina Acres, I believe is how you pronounce it. They're in Maine. I really like their videos. I watch a lot of photography and videography channels and tutorials, from Matt Granger to Tony and Chelsea Northrup. There's a whole bunch of different ones. And that's about it as far as YouTube goes. So check out all those channels. A lot of good information. So anyways guys, this video ran a little longer than I was expecting, but I appreciate all the comments. I appreciate I think we have around 1,200 subscribers, which is pretty awesome. My goal was just to help out as far as trapping goes, and encourage people to trap, maybe help someone along the way like some of you have helped me. And now we're at 1,200 subscribers, almost I think we're just over 50,000 views, which is pretty cool. So once again, thanks guys, I appreciate it, and look forward to making more videos and more interactions with you guys. So I better get walking the dog because she's bugging me. So cheers guys, and we'll see you on the next one.